we see a rise on both teams here.
Oh my goodness. And
as we saw Rise win the last round, no matter who wins this, we're going to be seeing two Rises in the final.
And a ban on Rise right away. Tato losing his Rise. You know what? Menci must have been watching that last game between Rio and Capital.
If you guys are excited to see Rise on both teams in this final, going to be coming up after this best of 3 set here, go ahead and leave us a follow. We're going to be having a raffle at the end of the tournament for 25,000 Pansuns. So if you want your chance at 25,000 Pansuns, stick around until the end of the tournament, and we'll be giving that away for followers, and subscribers will have an increased chance of winning.
I do want to also mention that I noticed somebody in the chat was like, well, actually, Rise isn't that strong of a contender here in competitive Temtem. And in fact, that was not the reason why the other player won. Well, if you think you're such a smart guy, why don't you go ahead and head on down to our Discord and register for the next tournament? I'd be very interested in seeing what your team would do and could do against our competitive Temtem players. Remember, anybody and everybody is allowed to register. So go ahead. Put your Pansuns where your mouth is, and let's do it.
Right? I mean, you talk about, oh, hey, Rise isn't that good of a competitor. He doesn't have the highest attack or whatever. Like, we see Rise not only going to be making it to the finals, but in both semifinals. These people have had to go through a Swiss round fighting the top players, as well as having to go through the single elimination best of 3 rounds. And these Rises have gotten all the way through all of that. Explain to me why you think that Rise isn't one of our top contenders here.
I don't think they can, in all honesty. I mean, this is one thing that people forget, that these guys are competing for a reason. They're driven to compete, and in order to put together a competitive team, you have to invest a lot of hours and a lot of time. And these guys, they practice all the time, and they theory craft, and they talk, and they theory craft, and they talk. But at this point, we have Menci against Potato.
I think there's an earthquake going on in the stadium here. The cameraman does not seem to have a very stable camera right now.
No, and we were seeing a little bit of this when we were watching Potato earlier. So we're going to see if we can get a bit of a more steadier camera here. But for now, we are watching Potato's point of view. And in fact, we might actually be bringing up El Schmacko's point of view, because that's a better point of view. So we're going to go there. Potato, your computer's a potato. Fix it.
Wonderful.
All right, so we're actually going to be watching from El Schmacko's point of view, otherwise known as Menci, here on the left of your screen. Potato on the right now. Pardon the interruption there. We want to make sure we bring to you the cleanest picture possible of the action. Ukama was a Tim that we don't actually get to see too much of. We saw it earlier, I believe, in one of our first matches. But and can I mention that El Schmacko's outfit is Shaggy-like. My man looks like some type of tribal Shaggy, and I dig it.
He does look like Shaggy. Oh, this is wonderful. That's my guild member for you. Anyway, so that was a very good job swapping out the Rise and putting in the Kinu instead. As now in this Gallus mirror, Menci El Schmacko has the upper hand, and Ukama was brought in originally to help deal with the Gallus and the Rise, but now is going to have a much harder time, as the Gallus and Ukama are going to have a lot more difficulty getting rid of this Gallus on Menci's side, and that defense boost is going to pay off.
Tato was taken. Now dipping into reserve time. Going to get switched out here with Pigapek. My gosh, you got me doing it now, Vox.
Haha! and the Gallus
Oh, wow,
surviving
but
with
look at
1
that
health.
Gialis barely surviving, but that Beta Burst will finish it off. Gialis wiped off the map.
Yeah, and that's just showing how strong the Rise lead was there. As if the opponent didn't have that speed boost, that Beta Burst would not have gone first, and not have taken care of Gallus before it had a chance to attack. A Rise lead to shut down these set-up sweepers in the beginning is such a strong lead.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to be talking about the Rise competitive presence here for a very long time, regardless of chat's opinions. It clearly has value, and we're seeing it work. It doesn't need high, strong attack values to make a difference. It just needs to show up. And that's it. Very strong trait, really. And against these crystal types as well, it will do enough damage to be felt.
Psypat being swapped in for the 2-Vine here, wanting to keep that Psypat safe as Sharp Stabs comes out and deals a good chunk to 2-Vine. Turbo Choreography going to give +2 speed boost to Pigapec and 2-Vine. I'm surprised that we don't see more 2-Vines used in regular competitive play, as 2-Vine's very strong, having that win synergy, being able to get these Pig Epics set up. 2-Vine surviving with a little more than half health. It will go down to a Haito Uchi, but 2-Vine having that +2 speed makes things a little bit scary, as it's going to have to worry about a Bamboozle coming in and protecting the 2-Vine.
Here comes Rise, and watch that Demoralize pop. Meanwhile, Bamboozle on the 2-Vine.
Now,
Gatling.
2-Vine actually can't have its speed lowered due to its Determined trait. So you can't actually lower 2-Vine's speed with such things like Demoralize, which makes 2-Vine an even stronger contender, especially because we saw this a lot in the alpha, but hasn't been brought up so much since early access launched. If you give 2-Vine a Noxious, if you use Noxious Bomb on 2-Vine and give it a Schween's Horn item, then suddenly 2-Vine has access to a base power 100 water type move in Noxious Bomb.
Oh, wow, you're right. And that could be a strong counter against Rise.
Of course, it still is going to be weak to Embers, and it doesn't want to have to risk that right now, so it swaps it out for Ukama, but that's still an option that 2-Vine has on the table.
You know, it's good seeing the Ukama here available for Potato, because that does give him some decent counterplay here against the Rise, and he's going to want to take that out as soon as possible. And the good news is, I don't believe his Ukama has been hit by Demoralize yet. Ukama and Water Cannon, very fast moves. I would imagine that if the Rise is not removed from the field here, it will take some damage. The other thing, though, is that do you really want to apply pressure to Rise to force it out? Because every time you force it out, you also force a return.
That is true to keep in mind, and I think what a lot of people should be doing against Rise, in the same way that a lot of times you have people ignoring Pig Epic due to the fact that if you try to kill it, then you're going to have to worry about that fainted curse. Having a Rise that you just kind of leave to the side and focus down whoever he's trying to support with that speed boost, speed decrease might be a better option. But I mean, look at this. It's a Kinu and Rise. He can just keep swapping those out and keep building momentum without even having to attack. And constantly being able to swap out like this means he's able to resist this Aquatic Whirlwind and keep the opponent guessing whether or not it's going to be swapped out for a Kinu or a Rise at any moment. And having that coverage of a Nature and Fire Temps to swap out to, it's unlikely that you're going to have something that you can't swap into.
And, you know, and that's really the big thing here, too, is that 2-Vine, if it had Noxious Bomb, with the water typing attack, would be a decent counter to Rise, because you wouldn't necessarily pull your Rise out against a 2-Vine. You wouldn't expect the Noxious Bomb coming. But then at the same time, you know, you're not going to be forcing it to switch out, therefore forcing it to come back. And you're right. You just keep switching in Kinu and Rise, Kinu and Rise. At some point, something's going to have to give. And, it looks like Psypat found a way to make it give. And it does. That Toxic Ink will knock out that Kinu. So that's one way to take care of it.
Yeah, there's no more defense buffs that are going to be coming through here, and without without a Psypat of his own right now to use that toxic ink to pressure out the Psypat or Ukama, he's not going to be able to pressure this too well as he doesn't have anything that will hit them super effectively. Gal is
And
still strong, having used Heat Up before, and now it has Sharp Stabs and Haito Uchi can throw out. If it wants to, it can throw Haito Uchi out into the Yukama slot and bring in potentially a Rise right now. Lower their speed down even more, as Pigapek is likely not going to be attacked here.
I do want to go ahead and say that there was a Rise ban onto Tater, which is interesting. Kind of curious whether or not El Schmacko was watching the other semifinal, knowing that there were some interesting Tim matchups there. I certainly would be watching it with goals of winning the entire tournament. Puts the ban out there on that Rise. So, oh, there goes the Haito Uchi taking out the Pig Epic. But in any case, denying Tater use of that Rise might actually be the reason why El Schmacko will probably take this round down, because that switch in is so powerful and it's so nice to see, but also he doesn't have an effective counter here against the Gialis.
You're right, and besides just Ukama's raw damage on its own, and you already chipped a bit of Gialis's health, so a Aquatic Whirlwind from Ukama is potentially scary. That's something you have to think about, and for those who don't know, I'm looking in the contestants chat right now, and poor Potato is so tired, and it's really hard for some of these contestants, because for those who aren't in North America, this tournament is really late for them. I know it's 1 a.m. in the European time, and for those in Australia, oh boy, I don't want to have to think
They're
about
just waking up.
Yeah, they're just waking up. Like,
Now, that being said, they had to wake up early for it. But
oh
we have
yeah,
competitors from all around the world, and there is no good, clean time to run it, in all honesty.
I
no
mean,
matter what, it's going to be weird.
The competitive scene's just starting off, and we don't have the volunteers to really make running tournaments at different time slots available for everybody. If you want to help volunteer for Temtem Arena and help us expand and grow, you can go ahead and join our Discord and contact one of our staff members if you're looking to help out. Now, we do see a knockout from the Sharp Stabs on the Psypad, if I'm correct. That's big, as now you just are left with this Ukama and Tuvine. And
wow.
Ukama does have a large stamina pool, but I don't know how they're going to be able to get through the rest of this entire team with just the Tuvine and Ukama. As we do see the concede from the Tato.
Concede. And yeah, at that point, you're pretty stuck. I don't see a path to victory there. That was somewhat of an expected concession, unlike the Convenel concession in the previous semifinal that we saw.
From an
there goes the
attack,
Rise
if I
ban.
just go first. Yep.
Well, let's see if Tato learned.
And bans the Rise as well. He does have Ukama and Psypat, which is why I think he believes that he's safer keeping the Rise on, but nope, just like you said, that Rise was such an important ban.
And we are on a 5-minute delay, so there's no way he could have gotten that advice from me. That's definitely something that he picked up on his own that he needed to do, and so that's what happened.
Yeah, from our perspective, they're still finishing the last match, so... Or
People
from their perspective.
Chat. All around. People in chat still getting upset about Pig Epic. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but it is, in fact, Pig Epic. Studied, in fact.
I just have to sit here and hold my tongue as much as I want to say it the other way. I'm not about to start this endless war.
I am. Because I'm right.
It's a war I know I'm bound to lose, and I'm scared.
Indeed. So right now we are getting a bit of a glitchy screen. We're going to try to see if we can figure out a way to clean that up for you guys. So do bear with us as we try to figure this out. So we are actually going to be switching back on over to Potato's point of view, which is a little smoother right now. So bear with us, as there is no true spectator mode built into the game. We have to improvise a spectator solution, and so we don't always get the cleanest connection. And unfortunately, at this particular point in time, we are getting a mixed results. As time goes on between these two players, but it seems to me right now we have a very clean presentation from Potato's point of view. So we are now watching Potato's point of view. So the action will be on different sides. Think of it as quarter two, quarter four in football. We just switch sides, that's all. So with both Rises banned, and then we see the Gialis and the Valorant banned. Those are two bans we don't normally see, so a lot of sweepers being taken out of this. We're actually going to see a support-heavy game here.
Yeah, and Potato has to be aggressive right now because he has Menci has Gallus. He has
and he does with that 2-Vine pick. Menci against Tato. And I swear, maybe one day we'll have a good view here. Here we go. All right, hopefully our streams will stabilize here and we'll be able to bring to you this match. This is the second round of this match with Menci, otherwise known as El Schmacko, winning the previous round. He just needs to win this one to move on, otherwise known as Tribal Shaggy.
Tribal Shaggy.
He looks amazing in every way. I love him.
Swapping out into the Pigapek is smart. He wants to keep that Gallus alive as long as possible, and Pigapek is going to drop a little bit below half health here, eating up that damage.
Beta Burst onto the Valorant. Decent amount of damage there, nothing too special.
Right now he's just looking for an opening for Ukama to wear itself out and to send in Gallus or Zenareth and start building up its defenses, or building up its attack that way without having to worry about taking large chip damage from Ukama. This could be scary though, as this does allow Volaren time to set up. Ukama and Volaren is such a strong lead. Ukama having access to the synergy for Water Cannon with Voldaren's Toxic typing, as well as Turbo Choreography getting synergy with Voldaren's Wind typing and increasing Voldaren's speed by 2 stage, and it's able to pressure things like this Gallus swapping in, as that +2 speed means that the next Hyperkinetic Strike coming out could potentially one-hit KO the Gallus.
Seeing a lot of speed up play here. Neither one of these players have to worry about an enemy rise.
And of course that's good for Potato right now, as he's guaranteed to be hitting extremely hard, but right now he has to think, do I use the Hyperkinetic Strike, cause my Volaren to overexert into the Gallus spot, or am I going to think, oh yes, the opponent's going to be swapping out his Gallus here, I don't need to throw out my Hyperkinetic Strike right now.
You know, that's a really good point that you mentioned Hyperkinetic Strike as well in the Rise equation, because Rise not only is a very strong crystal counter, but it's also a Valorant counter in the fact that it will slow down Valorant, therefore reducing its Hyperkinetic Strike damage. It's a very strong Tem in today's meta.
Yeah, I'm really surprised we don't see more of him, but people are showing just how strong it is to counteract a lot of the meta by Rise appearing on 3 of the top 4 players' team right now.
But you know, Sometimes people in chat just know better, and it's just not good enough. Love it,
I
chat.
mean, the numbers don't lie. We're seeing Rise be effective, and that's what he's doing. Gallus getting that protector bonus is going to keep itself safe from an incoming hyperkinetic strike. Cooperation, giving Boulderine just enough stamina to not overexert after using hyperkinetic strike, knocking Gallus's health down to half. And Crystal Bite's going to do a good chunk to Okama, but since it didn't have heat up, it's not going to one-hit KO. For those who are wondering why they were using Rise and not Raikan, once again, Rise has the Demoralized trait, which lowers the opponent's speed. I know a lot of people are still questioning why that was happening as they're watching this pick and ban phase here.
And I think we're going to actually see a lot more balance of a round here. I mean, honestly, not banning that Rise in the first round was the big mistake from Tato. So we might actually see a bit more of a balanced round as we move forward without such a disruptive presence. But I think the other thing too is that the Tato's Gialis was also banned, and so really he's stuck with a bit more of a passive team here, if only a few strong hitters here. And you know, Ukama has really good attack power, don't get me wrong, but honestly the water typing is only going to do so much against Tems that it won't get 2 times effectiveness against.
Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind is, will Ukama actually... I mean, Ukama will be able to outspeed with Aquatic Whirlwind, but will that be enough to kill Gyalis here? Or is it too afraid of an opponent's of Menci swapping out his Gyalis and losing all the momentum on the Ukama and Boulderend? Like I talk about, the moment that this Boulderend and Ukama lose momentum, the Gyalis and Zenareth are free to set up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to press the advantage while you have it. However, I can definitely sense the nerves here as we dip into reserve time. Roughly a minute remaining.
So we see the swap out on Boulderend, wanting to keep that safe from Gyalis, swapping in the 2-bind instead, and we do see the Gyalis swap out as the Aquatic Whirlwind comes in and hits Pig Epic, which will...
There we go. Aquatic Whirlwind there. Pig Epic. It will get removed from the field.
And that's going to knock out...
But that fainted Karis will strike yet again. We saw how much of a disruptive trait that was in our first semifinal round with Covenal. And
being able to knock out the Rise due to the fainted curse that happened back there. And likewise, the Okama getting knocked out due to fainted curse in this match, semifinals leading into these grand finals.
And that was one of my first questions watching competitive Temtem was like, why Pig Epic is such a disruptive force to the battlefield. Why don't they just take it out first? Well, fainted curse. That's why. It punishes you for doing it, and it's quite a large chunk of HP if I'm not mistaken. It's 40%, right?
Yeah, a little under half, and with how much damage a lot of these Tems can do in a single hit, they usually rely on setting up to be able to do something like a one-hit KO, but if you lose 40% of your health, a strong hit from something like a Zenareth will be more than enough to finish you off.
Exactly.
With Selby and Zenareth out on the field, Saipat, its first turn here, is going to feel a little bit threatened as a Crystal Spikes and Beta Burst into Saipat's spot would be enough to knock it out. It wants to try to get rid of this Zenareth, but it would be doing so at a bit of a gamble.
Crystal Spikes out there on Saipat, taking it down about half health.
And the Beta Burst will be enough to finish it off. That's what I was talking about, where doubling up into that Saipat spot can be very scary for Saipat. So we see the Volarend swap in. These two Wind Tems are going to have a hard time, as Volarend already has had his special defense dropped by 2 stages. A Crystal Spike from Xenarith is going to be dealing a lot of damage.
These players making me nervous every time they press escape here. I'm thinking they're getting ready to concede.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised with Potato being a bit on the back foot here, as the Xenarith and Gyalis are still in the back, but Volarend...
I mean, at this point, it's very easy to see that El Schmacko is outclassing Potato. As much as I love him, he must not be from a potato farm up north, honestly, and that's sort of my thinking there, but, you know, we'll just continue to see as El Schmacko shows us that this is the way.
Yeah, that was a good swap in into the Pig Epic, as now Xenarith has no stamina to throw out another attack. And Xenarith is going to be his main way. Selby, Kinu, eating up that Crystal Plume Gatling and just barely holding on, is still going to have some use in this match, as it does outspeed the 2-Vine. And it's just a matter of, are we going to see Xenarith swapped out, or maybe even rest here to get enough stamina to use another Crystal Spikes? Because it needs to be using that Crystal Spikes to take out Volarend, with its special defense having been dropped. This is really intense for these players, as a lot of them are really taking the time to decide. We're looking at the reserve time dropping to about 30 seconds for some of these players.
Oh, wow.
Tornado's going to finish off the Kinu here, and I think we're going to be seeing a Noxious Bomb coming out into the Saipat, which will deal about half health.
Noxious Bomb, we were talking about that against a Rise, and he didn't use it against Rise, strangely enough. He might have forgot about it.
No, it's mainly because he didn't have Shuin's Horn on it. So it wasn't a water-type attack, which wouldn't have hit Saipat here very well.
I understand. Got you. So it's that item that changes it.
Yes. The Shuin's Horn item changes toxic moves to water types. So this Noxious Bomb would have been a water type if he had Shuin's Horn, but that would have meant that it wouldn't have hit Saipat very effectively at all.
Well, that's a game changer, honestly, because all toxic attacks turn to water?
Yeah, it's actually a really strong item, and something I'd like to see more of, as that makes it very difficult to know whether a Tem has access to a toxic move or a water move.
Oh, that's nasty. Do our rules allow you to change items from between fights?
Not currently. We have been changing our rule set up a lot to try to find out what's best, but as it stands right now, you're supposed to keep the same items on your Tems, but we could be seeing, if we allow for it again, item swapping between matches to be a huge role, as that's going to be game-changing and being able to counteract opponents' strategies.
And that's a game changer, actually being able to change your toxic moves to water. If the Rise meta continues to come up, you know, don't forget Volcrane as well. Being able to counter these fire types smartly, and even with a toxic typing, would be really exciting to see. Now, the question is would it still be considered a stab? And I think the answer would be no.
Well, it depends. Right now, I mean, Noxious Bomb is not stab on 2-Vine, but if you were to do Pigapet getting knocked out by the Toxic, very nice. Saipat not having to worry about that Fainted Curse. This looks like it's very, very heavily in Menci's favor, especially after that Haito Uchi interrupt 2-Vine.
Absolutely, and please forgive my questions. I'm just geeking out over what this item can do for the meta. It blows it wide open.
Right, and Saipat is going to be using, if it doesn't die to a Hyperkinetic Strike here from Volarend, then it's going to be using Nicho Sai to kill 2-Vine as Crystal
Ooh.
Bite isn't quite enough. It actually outspeeds the Volorend. And Volorend actually rested instead of attacking. Very bizarre, as it was already close to full. I wonder if that was a misplay. But,
Seemed that way.
so one thing that you could do is, instead of running Toxic Affinity on Psypat, you could have Toxic Ink alongside a Schween's Horn, which would turn it into a water type attack, and you would get a stab bonus using the the Toxic Ink on Psypat. So you could have a stab Toxic Ink Psypat without Toxic Affinity. Instead, you could use Amphibian, which would increase its speed every time it's hit by a water type attack. So there's some options, like for instance, Volorend here could have a water type Toxic Plume, which isn't the highest damage move, but could still do water damage, potentially. And it's just this Volorend versus this Centerith. He's going to be eating a Crystal Spikes here, and his HP is going to deplete. So, with that, I think it's safe to say Menci's going to be going into the grand finals here against Rio.
Yeah, it's definitely safe to say that, and I think at this point too is not only are we going to be seeing that, but you know, we've Rio and El Schmacko